In an update from the Israel-Palestinian war, Israeli forces have released video they claim shows weapons and ammo found in the parking lot of Nasser Hospital, which proves the hospital was a base for Hamas forces. Take a look.
נאצר, מצאנו רכב של פעילי חמאס שיש בפנים רימונים, קשרים טקטיים, דגלי חמאס ועוד ציוד של פעילי חמאס. חניית בית החולים נאצר.
Now, this comes as violence increases at a crossing into Rafah in southern Gaza, where police forces opened fire at a crowd of Palestinians rushing at an aid truck. Israel has vowed to launch a ground invasion of Rafah by the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, which begins March 10th, if the remaining hostages are not released by Hamas. Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu vowed to, quote, finish the job in Gaza, adding a hostage release can, quote, be achieved through strong military action and tough negotiations. Netanyahu's statements come as mass protests erupted in Tel Aviv. Protesters called for the Israeli government to resign and begin bringing Israeli troops home.
Meanwhile, President Biden is increasingly facing calls from his left to do something about the ongoing violence occurring in the Gaza Strip. In swing state Michigan, an effort by Muslims that's backed by Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib looks like it could strongly threaten Biden's re-election chances. From the New York Post, Squad member Rashida Tlaib publicly encouraged progressives to vote against President Biden in Michigan's upcoming Democratic primary in protest over his support for Israel's war on Hamas. The, quote, Listen to Michigan campaign, championed by Tlaib's younger sister Layla, encourages Democrats to vote uncommitted in the Great Lakes state's upcoming February 27th primary. Biden appears to be in trouble with black voters as well. Leaders of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, nation's oldest predominantly black denomination, have called for the U.S. to halt all funding and other support for the Jewish state, describing Israel's actions as genocide. So obviously it remains to be seen how much this will hurt Biden in the general election. This is just the primary. It's about sending which he's going to win. It's about sending a message, however, about his policies, which do seem to have the left extremely upset with respect to Israel.
Yeah, reasonably so. 30,000 people killed in Palestine by Israel. When you think about this in the framework of how this administration has described it, that this is Israel somehow defending itself, it just doesn't make sense. When you have people protesting the Netanyahu regime in Tel Aviv, in Israel, when you look at some of the polling coming out of Israel and whether or not Israelis support what the Netanyahu administration is doing, it's shocking. You find that they're extremely critical of Netanyahu, that they don't support the killing of Palestinians, especially to the degree that we have seen. And then you have Biden saying, yes, the killing of civilians has been over the top and they need to rein it in. But you have the United States time and again voting against a ceasefire at the United Nations. You have the United States continually sending weapons to Israel. And so you can't say you want civilians to stop dying and then give them the means to kill more civilians and have a track record of voting in the direction of wanting them to continue the killing. It just doesn't make sense. And so for voters to pull their support of Joe Biden in the primary, it makes perfect sense. This is what I would expect of someone like Rashida Tlaib of the Squad, who went in there to change the Democratic Party, to change how the country does politics. And what we've seen on the left, unfortunately, is a lot of people falling in line with the Democratic Party, which in this case means supporting Israel, which is something many people are not willing to do. So yeah, I think it's going to cause a lot of problems from within the Democratic Party. But I think we will see it affecting the general election as well to some degree, because voters are not going to be excited to vote for someone who's supporting this.
I mean, I think the sentiment in Israel is still overwhelmingly in support of what's going on in Gaza. The most recent polling I can find is from a month ago, which shows maybe some declining faith that they're going to succeed in their mission in taking out Hamas, but that they utterly and absolutely support attempting to do so. There is some frustration with Netanyahu, I think, coming from all sides. There are people who agree with you that this is a genocide and it should be done even within Israel itself. There are those who probably support the action going on or support it even more so, but don't trust Netanyahu to carry it out, or distrust his own history and how he the allegations of covertly or tacitly supporting Hamas himself in order to delegitimize the less fringe Palestinian political organization in the West Bank. However, I don't expect it does not look to me like public sentiment within Israel is turning against the war effort, which means this is going to continue, and it's on the Biden administration to decide whether we should continue to fund a government that is taking actions that Biden himself claims he doesn't support, that he supports a two-state solution. Netanyahu does not, that they need to do more to limit civilian casualties, and that they don't agree with a lot of the actions taken, including, I believe, this invasion of this military operation in Rafah. So Netanyahu has signaled over and over again that he's going to do what he thinks is in the best interest of his country, or I guess for his administration. And what is Biden going to do with it, or do about that? And so far, what Biden's going to do about that is absolutely nothing. Just complain about it privately, kind of, sometimes.
Yeah, when we look at the polling coming out of Israel, saying that only 15% of Israelis, this is as of January 2nd, want Netanyahu to stay in office. And also you have 44% not supporting the continued military offensive as a response to get the hostages home. And so when you look at that, that's a significant number when you think it's coming from Israel, because we see similar polling coming out of the United States. And this is a war that many people don't have a direct stake in here at home, but they see U.S. support of it. And for it to mirror almost the Israeli population is very interesting. And to see that 15% only want Netanyahu to stay in office, at the very least, we need someone else making decisions on behalf of Israel, because even if you support a continued military operation to bring the hostages home, that could mean you support a very strategic effort, a very covert operation type of military endeavor to bring these hostages home. You could support very precise military strikes only on Hamas bases. So continued military operation can mean a variety of things. And I think when you're asking Israel, of course, they're going to say they want the hostages to be brought home. Yes, we have the military power and support of the United States to be able to do that. But the indiscriminate bombing of civilians, I just don't think is something that a lot of Israelis would say they support if you ask them directly. A big problem with these polls is they're kind of framed to get a favorable response. But I think when we look at the military offensive as a whole, it's putting Israelis at a greater risk, especially when you consider what's happening in the region. When we think about the Houthi rebels in the Red Sea attacking shipping, there are a lot of people that are more critical of Israel than they ever have been before because of the military operation. And so if I was an Israeli, I'd be extremely worried that what Netanyahu's doing is putting them at risk.
We will continue to monitor that situation. We'll have more Rising right after this.